Hello. Welcome to episode 16 of We Are Judging You. We're switching it up a little bit for the summertime. I'm going to start the intro. Usually, my esteemed law partner George does it. So today we're going to be talking about basic tips in a personal injury case and giving you sort of the insider's tip on how to protect your case, how to maximize your damages, and also get the best outcome for your case. George has been doing this for 20 years. I consider him my mentor. He likes to call himself Yoda. We're going to get a lot of good insight from him, and we're going to go from there. These are the kind of scenarios we're talking about. You get in a car wreck. Someone hits you from the back. You may not feel shocked in the first few seconds of the accident, but you definitely later in the day you do. Uh, you slip on a wet floor at a grocery store, or you throw out your back at work picking up a box that your boss said had to be picked up without any sort of safety equipment. So the instinct that most people have in those first 5 minutes is shock. You have a lot of shock, adrenaline. You're trying to make sure that you're able to get up, you're able to walk around, but then that can hurt them later, especially and we'll talk about what to do at the scene of the accident. From there, what's going to happen is as you get along in the process, you're going to have a lot of people interacting with you, medical providers, physical therapists, and if you decide to go down the route of getting a lawyer involved, obviously the legal system. By the end of this episode, our goal is you will never talk to an insurance adjuster the same way again. And hopefully you're working with a lawyer to deal with insurance adjusters for you. So, George, do you want to take it out to our first segment?
Yeah. So hi guys, I'm George. I'm back here again, aka Master Yoda, aka Grogu's boss. Um, so a couple of sayings for y'all: listen to your lawyer, win cases you will, and say I'm okay, lose cases you will. Okay, in true Yoda banter, right? So uh, at the end of the day, there are some things that you should say, and there's some things that you want to shy away from saying to maximize recovery, which ultimately that's what you want to hit. You want to hit your your medical maximum improvement, obviously after your treatment, and if there is sufficient insurance on the at-fault driver's side, of course you want to max out your recovery. That's all fair. But there are some things that you need to do at the scene. Okay. And I think that probably the first thing is um, focus less on talking to others at the scene and just document things if you are able. If you're not able, you need to call for medical emergencies. Obviously, I think you ought to do that. That will take precedent, it will be your safety. But a lot of times people try to engage in banter at the scene. Sometimes it might involve, you might ask someone, are you okay? And if you get asked that question, to be honest, if it's an accident where you felt any type of force whatsoever, I think the best answer is, hey, I mean, until you're evaluated, you just don't know. But if you say things like you are okay, then that can be held later against you, even if it turns out that medically, scientifically, you were actually not okay. All right. The other thing I see people do is we'll get halfway through an intake process and they'll mention, hey, I blacked out, or I momentarily lost consciousness, or something like that happened. These are things that, uh, if you are asked by EMS personnel, if they're there, if you're disoriented, if you blacked out, mention it to them, because loss of consciousness is something serious that can affect your mental acumen either in the short term or in the long term. It just has to be evaluated depending on your circumstances. Okay. The other thing people do is they may try to explain what happened to someone who's not law enforcement. And I would be very careful about that because witnesses could be there. They may have seen something different than what you're saying. And you don't want them to sort of conform what they saw to what you're saying because it may not be beneficial to you in the end. You want everybody to be truly independent. I wouldn't try to place blame. I would document things. Obviously, you're going to want license plates. You're going to want to take pictures of any damage done to your vehicle and the at fault vehicle. And let's hope you're not the at fault vehicle, right? But you're also going to want to document the orientation of the cars because a lot of times what people do is they will pull to the side and you won't have, or they'll pull out of the way and you won't have a true representation later as to what the orientations of the vehicles actually was. So it's easy to just snap a cell phone photo of the exact orientation. That way it cannot be questioned later who was in the front, who was in the rear, was someone merging, was someone already in the lane. All of that's going to be reasonably clear if you document things. So that's kind of how that's how I would approach it. And just you got to understand, as soon as you've been in an accident, your body is in an excited state. Your body is in a very stressed state. Your cortisol, which is your stress hormone, that's probably really, really high. You've got adrenaline that's coursing through your body. So you're probably not feeling every single bit of pain or every single issue that's going to come up down the line. And that's what you have to be careful of because the next day you could feel completely different. I mean, it's like doing your very first yoga workout. It might be a little bit uncomfortable at first and then the next day you're sore everywhere. That's how whiplash works. You don't necessarily feel things in the moment, but you're going to feel it every other moment after that day passes. And if you've already said things like, hey, I'm okay, or I just want to get money for my car, and that's it, or you confuse the orientation of the vehicles because y'all moved off to the side somewhere, and the at fault vehicle wound up parking in front of you to make it look like you were the one who rear-ended things. Those are things that really trip people up later. So it's easy to not have all this data sort of in your mind, and I've been doing it like you heard for about 20 years, so it's really easy to not have all the data, uh, but jot it down in a list. And I tell people keep a little list on your cell phone. You can make the list right here from this podcast and share the list with your friends because they will get into accidents also. I mean, I'll just say a couple of weeks ago we had a valet service park my spouse's car, and the guy wrecked it, bringing it back to her. And then she calls me because we had taken separate cars. And I'm like, why are you still at the restaurant? She's like, it's taking them 20 minutes to bring the car. They just told me the guy got into some kind of he hit something, and I, of course, did the 180, went back, and I went into essentially PI lawyer mode at that point. I had a manager trying to give me a story. I figured out within 2 seconds he didn't see it. So it's you don't have any personal knowledge. He only knows what the driver is telling him. So I started documenting the car, got the driver's name, got the manager's name, wound up getting that claim resolved through their insurance. But there are a lot of steps at the very, very beginning that you just have to be careful of because people are watching, other people are recording. They also have their own recording devices. And I always recommend if you have any damage on your car, go ahead and call law enforcement. Just have a report made. Sometimes they take, forever to come, but I would go ahead and do that because stories can change later,
Yeah,
and a
of
lot of
course.
times they do.
So let's get into the so that was a really helpful background on what to expect and things to watch out for. So I'm going to go really quickly through the insurance adjuster. So if you get a lawyer retained, they're going to send out a notice of representation very quickly to the insurance, and insurance will stop bothering you directly. This is the other driver, the at-fault driver's insurance. If your own insurance is dealing because you've made some sort of first-party claim, or the other side doesn't have insurance, you have to cooperate with your insurance adjuster, right? But at the same time, you want to make sure you've made that decision that you're going to DIY or do it yourself, or you're going to get an attorney involved along the way. So if you do it yourself, the other side's insurance company will call you probably the same day as the accident. As soon as a claim is made, they want to get you as quick as possible, settle with you as for as little as possible, because they know that if they give you time, once you get a time to sit, talk to your friends and family, probably you're going to have a lawyer, right? So that's why they're working quickly. The first thing they're going to ask you, how are you feeling? That's not small talk. That's not just a formality. Insurance companies are involved in millions of lawsuits over the course of a year, so they know exactly the playbook. They know exactly how to start painting their case and helping their own attorneys if you decide to file suit to minimize and sort of question everything that's going on. So if they ask you how are you feeling, you want to be careful, and you can say, hey, if you're absolutely fine, you say that, but then don't come back and expect to get a settlement that covers your medical injuries. You can say you're not sure. That's always an acceptable answer. I'm not feeling the same as I was before. Things like that. If you decide to answer that question. Um, do not give a recorded statement without an attorney present. That recorded statement goes in to their things. In fact, the whole call is recorded. Probably as soon as you pick up, it'll tell you this call may be recorded for training or quality purposes. The training is to train their lawyers to attack you. The quality is to make sure that the quality of the settlement is lower. So just remember that. If you decide to settle with them, that's obviously your choice. That's your prerogative. But just note that it's a negotiation. You don't ever have to accept the first offer in anything in life, especially with an insurance company. And I think if during the course of that call or the initial correspondence, you say I retained an attorney, it's going to change the entire dynamic. The insurance company most likely will stop talking with you and want to deal with your attorney. So just those are some tips to consider.
Yeah.
What else? So yeah, just again, just letting you know, insurance adjusters, their job is they're trained negotiators. They're working from a playbook that the insurance company has set. This is a business for the insurance companies, and I don't hold it against them. They are trying to minimize how much money they pay out, so that way they keep more money for their shareholders. But that's directly adverse to what you want to happen when you're in a car wreck. So just that's one thing. Now, if it's your own insurance company, these are separate rules. You do want to cooperate with them. If again you're at an accident and you're the one who's at fault, or it's not clear who's at fault, if you get served with a lawsuit, it's a different playbook, right? You're going to tell your insurance company that hey, this happened, right? You do want to talk to them because they are on your side because they also want to minimize the damages that you incur. And the other thing is that if you get in a lawsuit, you can reach out to any attorney that you know, but a personal injury attorney is if you get sued, they're going to tell you, have you told your insurance? Please notify your insurance in writing. And that means email, fax, or the traditional way, because they need it in order to start the clock. Because an insurance policy, in addition to paying out damages, is also your policy to get an attorney for free. And that's when you're not you're the one at fault or alleged to have been at fault. Okay. Does that pretty much sum it up? The
Yeah.
the way that yeah. So
There, well, I want to talk about it. There's a scam I've seen on social media going around saying, if you are in a wreck, download this app, use this app, you can skip the attorney and keep all the money for yourself. Uh, there's several problems with this. One, um, no one can give you accurate legal advice except your attorney. Okay. And really, no one should be giving you legal advice except for your attorney. um, you can decline to give a recorded statement to the at fault driver's insurance adjuster. You don't have to give it. You can say, I need to discuss that with my attorney and I will revert back with you. You can say whatever you want to say, but that is something that you can decline. And the way in the personal injury world, the lawyer is only paid when the client's paid, if and when. And if there's no payment, then the lawyer's never paid. But the lawyer's fees can be anywhere from 40% to 50%. It just depends on your geographical location. Okay. But when the lawyer comes onto the case, they are not aiming to settle that case for an amount that would not satisfy your medical bills plus their fee, and then that's it. What they're aiming to settle the case for, and what happens more often than not, in my experience, is the fees are paid, the medical bills are paid, and then the client has um, the excess set aside for their mental health treatment, for any mental anguish damages that they have, just for things for themselves and for their family, to reimburse them for missing time at work, having to rearrange schedules to go to medical appointments, and to cover expenses. So bringing on the attorney is actually more often than not going to be a favorable development for your case. If you proceed without an attorney, then insurance treats you as a pro se. And pro se still have to follow all the same legal rules as any other litigant. But the problem is you're proceeding without knowing all the rules and knowing the psychology of what the adjuster is trying to do. I've had clients come to me before, well, potential clients come to me, and in my discussions with them, it's almost as if they think the adjuster is their friend. The adjuster is not your friend. They're not trying to hurry up and settle anything. They're trying to settle for as low an amount as they can whenever they can, whether it's now or 2 years from now. They can let it sit because from their perspective, it's, hey, if it's an open file, that means we haven't paid. If we haven't paid, the insurance company is winning.
Correct.
Yeah.
Right. No, so that's a really good point. So let's just talk a little bit about treatment. We talked about how to handle the insurance companies and do that, but treatment is just as important. And again, I mean, we tell clients you have to take care of yourself because that's you're going to be the best advocate for your own personal health, right? No one else can feel how much pain you're going through, whether your finger hurts, your back hurts, all stuff. And there's no need to feel guilty that hey, you got in a car wreck and it's taking you time and you're going through this system. It's not your fault, right? And that's the thing that we tell clients. In addition to that, once you settle what George was talking about, that's it. That's the end of your claim against that driver and his or her insurance company. You can't come back and say 3 years from now, actually, that herniated disc caused impingement on the nerves, and I'm not able to walk without pain every single step I take. That's it. Once you've signed and settled, so it's really important that once you get started in this process, you go and focus on the first thing, which is treatment, right? And getting back on your feet as soon as you can, to the extent that's possible. So, what do we mean by taking care of yourself? If you get in a car wreck, so many times I tell clients go to the ER, go to urgent care that same day, right? And again, if it's severe enough, obviously ambulance will be called to the site and will take you. But even if you're able to walk on your own 2 feet, you still want to go. If it's a weekend and your primary care doctor is not open, you still want to go to the ER, urgent care. There's a lot of stuff they can do. Now, if you end up with internal bleeding or something of that severity, like if you get talking about a blackout, that's a key symbol of a traumatic brain injury, right? There's a risk there. Those have very serious consequences, and you may not even know, what's going on. So, ER, urgent care, or your own doctor within 24 to 72 hours of any incident. If you have a gap in treatment, it's explainable, but it's a tough explanation that you're going to have to make because if it's taking you, 2 weeks, 4 weeks to get treatment, instantly the insurance company is going to say, no, this is not a real injury. This is somebody got in your head and said you can make more money, or you saw what the amount of money for the car, that was you didn't expect to get a full car back or your car replaced, and now you're making this up to sort of gin up your damages. So you don't want to have a gap in treatment because if you go quickly, you get a follow up, the doctors are going to know what they need to do, what your next steps are going to be. Then you can be accused of making up stuff. Okay. And please follow all your treatment recommendations. Unless you're a doctor or a trained medical, healthcare provider, you really don't have the ability to say this is not, not a good medical recommendation. You do know your body the best. You do know what's right for you, what type of medications you want to take, and which make you uncomfortable. So you advocate for yourself in that sense. But if they're giving you a sensible treatment recommendation, go to all your appointments, go to all your follow up, especially after you get out of the doctor's office or the ER. You're probably going to be sent to a physical therapist office or a chiropractor. That is conservative treatment. That's not making up something, because if you get the relief from those two places and some moderate painkillers or some compressions, that's great. That means that's worked. If that doesn't work, you need to go back to your doctor or work with your medical provider on going to the next step, which may be more serious. It can be pain injections, it can be surgery, a whole sort of stuff they can say, right? So you want to make sure you follow it. You do want to keep all your medical records. Most doctors are good about keeping that. They're required to keep it, but if you have anything, you want to just make sure you have it and give it to your lawyer if you do retain one. And you want to document how life is being affected. We always tell clients keep a log. We give them a notebook once they get started, and they can write down and say, "Got up, Monday and felt bad, and I got up Tuesday and I felt a little bit better," and go from there. So these are all things, in order to get the pain and suffering, which adds on to medical injuries in a lawsuit, it has to be documented. And clients always ask us, how do you figure out pain and suffering? And there's no real formula for it, but the more you document and the more you have the evidence, you'll have an idea that it's there. So I'm going to turn it over to George to just close it up.
Well, you've heard it again. We're still judging you. Join us for episode 17, and we'll catch you next time.
And if you know somebody who got in an accident or you yourself, drop us questions in the comments, and we look forward to answering those comments. Have a good day.